All right, I'll call the August 11th Planning Committee meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Brad Ray,
Here.
Terrence Van Buren, George Bousset,
Here.
Elizabeth Franick.
She has to be excused.
Thank you. Elizabeth Garrett, Gary Mertig.
He has to be excused also.
Thank you. Paul Wilharm,
Here.
Dan Grady,
Here.
Lissa Radke,
Here.
Charlie Ortman, and Marcus Troma.
Here.
Thank you.
You can't leave them on because if there are too many on, they don't work.
Yeah. So approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second it. Okay, we have a motion to approve and second. Just let you know that I do have to leave early for another meeting. But Terry will take over running to and hope to get a little bit further before we adjourn. So with the motion and second, all those in favor? Aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right, public comment.
Hi, Megan Salmon Tumis, Ashland County resident and member of the City of Ashland's Sustainability Committee. I want to speak for a couple of minutes today, and just let me know if I get close to my time. Thanks. About the importance of explicitly mentioning sustainability in a comprehensive plan, and encourage you to consider containing some language about it, or even a whole section about it in the comp plan. So sustainability refers to a practice in community development that seeks to balance the needs of current generations with future generations. And it often explicitly includes three things: the need for a healthy environment, a thriving economy, and strong communities. And so I think hearing this, probably you all can think of many ways in which these themes are already embedded in the draft plan that you have been working on. I can see it there. And so the sustainability can serve as a guide for the kinds of things that you're already trying to do when you're planning. And it's not uncommon for a Wisconsin county to explicitly explain what sustainability is in its plan and include it as a focus in the comprehensive plan. So I want to highlight a couple of examples. La Crosse County Comprehensive Plan includes a sustainability chapter, and it is, quote, from their plan, regarded as the highest level of strategic planning for our organization. All other plan chapters stem from this chapter, end quote. And so what they do is they identify sustainability goals and objectives throughout all of the chapters by using an icon to show where it's relevant. And they also have some specific actions that are related just to our sustainability goals that are in a separate chapter. Another example from our nearby neighbor, Bayfield County, their plan includes sections on systems thinking and sustainable community development. And those are at the start of the introduction chapter. And so it works as a framing to get people thinking about these things as they read the plan. And then it also clearly informs many of the goals and objectives in their plan. But I have a favorite example that I brought just 2 copies of, can pass those around, and it's from Polk County. So in Polk County, they have an additional element, a chapter that is in addition to the 9 required elements, that's on energy and sustainability. And this chapter defines sustainability, and it connects it to their key priorities like environmental protection and local self-reliance. And so I thought it could help to just take a look at how they've done that. And so I can tell that already you've been thinking about sustainability as you've been putting this together. And so I wanted to encourage you to make it specific, more explicit. And so as another example of what that could look like, I've brought a draft of what some sustainability language that's really specific to Ashland County could look like, about some of the history of sustainability here, and some survey results that show why it matters to the people here, and some example goals, objectives, and action steps related to it. And so I'll also pass that. Thank you.
Perfect. Any other public comment? Any online? In the room? Megan, could you by chance, if you have that digital copy, could you send that to me? Bradley.Ray and then at Ashland County, whatever it is. Yes, thank you. No other public comment. We'll move to approval of the minutes from July 21st meeting.
Make a motion to approve meeting
Terry
minutes from the
Terry
prior
motion,
meeting.
I'll second.
Charlie second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. On to 5 discussions. So the first one is vision statement. And so we have had some committee change over the planning of this, but it was brought to the attention that there may be competing vision statements. And so in the packet, there are 2 vision statements. One was from the previous committee, kind of had gotten based about a year ago, and another one's a kind of a proposal. And the goal today is to read through these and kind of figure out which one should be placed in the actual document, or if there's any minor changes. Go ahead, Beth.
I noticed that in the second one, there were a number of, it was transcribed from handwritten, and it wasn't transcribed completely correctly. So I just corrected it. So could I hand out the actual second version? I
Yeah,
made copies.
I guess we missed something. Probably comment. Go for it. Go for it. You got it.
No, anybody can find it online, so.
So are there any thoughts on these 2 vision statements? Go ahead, Beth.
I also, in looking at both of them, they had their strengths and weaknesses. So I also created one that was a blend of both. And if people wanted to, I could hand a version of that out.
Lisa, do you have something?
I was just thinking that a lot of times a vision statement is like one sentence, but then it can be supported by bullets, and that version would be a nice way to combine these 2 things in the bulleted list, but have one simple vision.
So in the actual plan, there is how we're going to reach that vision. It does have kind of that bullet underneath that. It says to meet the challenges the county will, and it lists a bunch of stuff too. But this was just the initial statement to kind of overcompass was the goal of this. And yeah, the one's 3 sentences and one's some complex sentences. Go ahead, George.
Well, I'm perfectly happy with either. I'm a little bit torn on the question of vision versus philosophy. This new statement seems more like philosophy to me. I'm not sure that's quite concise enough for some of our readers. There may be some of us who wholeheartedly agree with this philosophy, but we're a pretty diverse county, and I think we might be wise to be a little more centrist. So I'm happy with it.
This is Elizabeth Franek. I have a comment.
Go ahead, Liz.
On the vision statement on B, you know, where it says that do no harm to the soils that keep us alive and healthy. You know, people might argue to that effect. I think we could word it that may preserve the soils that keep us alive and healthy. I think that might be a better statement.
Terry, go ahead.
So that's included in the original vision statement from 25.
Yeah, I think ultimately they're fairly similar, but we're getting into these word choices again. Go ahead, Marcus.
Just kind of what she said as a vision statement as a short statement, and then it can be followed up by supporting. So I guess for myself, these just keep growing, and then it's like, what is really the vision?
Go ahead, Beth.
Really, at first I was looking at the vision statement and I just thought there was a little bit of clunkiness to it. We start with quality of life and we ended with quality of life. We used a couple of terms and really, I was just going to wordsmith it a little just to smooth it out. And then I got kind of carried away, I would say, and ended up kind of taking a whole different approach, which was corrected version 2. And so this blend, I think, brings it back to, I thought I was trying to get back to the original statement, which I didn't have that big of problems with, except for the way it read. So those were my thoughts about all of this.
Go ahead, George.
I mean, I like the statement, the blend, but I'm not sure that action words are appropriate in the vision statement. So there are no actions in this one from August 1st, 2025, but it is blend, which I like a lot, but it says, you know, we encourage, we celebrate, we define. These are things that we do as opposed to things that we visualize or that we see in our future. I'm not,
Well, we have two
not quite sure
sentences.
that works.
We have 2 sentences in vision as an active verb as well.
Yeah, but we encourage is almost like an action item.
Well, and so is envision is what I'm saying.
Is a vision statement, so
Right.
by definition, you visualize this.
But to me, encourage and envision are basically, could be the very similar word. You got something, Paul?
I would be in favor in keeping it as simple as possible with the average reader in mind.
And so does that mean the one is August 25?
Yeah, I like the one from August 25. I would change the last word from residents to everyone.
I agree with Paul.
So I've kind of heard 3 October or the August 2025 version, 4 It seems like it's a majority just to keep that, but changing the last for everyone. Should we put in for Ashland County residents and visitors? Or just everyone? Everyone. Right. That's true. Can you use your microphone so Liz can hear you?
Yes. I could read Polk County's vision statement with that. Improve the quality of life for all who live, work, and play in Polk County. And then they have focus elements.
Charlie?
Feel like I'm instructing an English class that I have no qualifications for. But I like all the statements. Beth's are far more moving to me, but I'm regardless of what statement we accept, I would like the things that Beth mentions to be covered in something further down in the supporting staff, I guess, of the.
So just so you know that to meet the challenges, it says maintain high quality natural resources base, preserve our air, land, water to the highest level for future generations, provide both natural resource opportunities and cultural resource opportunities that attract people to the county and continue to recognize the importance of tourism in the county. Continue to be a steward of the county, state, and federal forests, as well as fish wildlife through collaboration with outside agencies and organizations. And it goes on. So
Yeah.
a lot of these are in here. Tourism, agriculture, robust economy, thriving local economy, high quality standard living, childhood, lifelong learning, and cooperation.
I would just want, as a part of this committee, I would want to feel that those issues that Beth brought up that she felt they were represented somewhere.
Right.
In the words of the chapter. Thank you.
George, go ahead.
Yeah, of these three versions, this being a vision statement, I wanted to paint a picture in my mind of what the vision is of these clean streams and rural life and city life. And I still think that the August one with that slight modification paints a picture in my mind, whereas its other statements are focused more on values, which are more abstract. And so I think I still favor the original. Well, I really appreciate the discussion of the other.
I think we have, so there's eight people. So I think there's 4 people right now that like the August 1st one, if my math is correct. Or is it 5, up to 5? Paul, do you prefer the August 1st one? Is that what you said? George, Marcus, and Liz. So that is 5. So I think by majority vote, even though we're not gonna, I guess we can call a vote. Does somebody want to make a motion to make this official?
I make a motion to approve the August 1st, 2025 vision statement with the change of the last word residents to everyone.
George will second.
So we have a motion and a second to approve that as a vision statement. Any further discussion?
I'm just wondering if everyone is the right word. Can we, maybe all, for all?
For all?
Yeah, sounds better.
Do you take that as a friendly amendment for all instead of everyone? All right, we're not gonna do that. Then all those in favor? Oh, Beth, do you have one more thing?
Aye.
Or Liz?
Well, I'm just wondering if we can do something about the duplicative quality of life in the beginning and quality of life at the end. I still think that this could read a little bit nicer, easier on the ear. So, but if it doesn't bother anybody else, and then we use the term diversity, we are culturally diverse community, then we say diverse lands. So I just think there's kind of some clunkiness about these two sentences that I would just think is a bad foot to step off on. So I can recognize and totally appreciate that people want simplicity. And I agree with a lot what was said. I'm just wondering if we can get the English to sound better. For instance, I'm sorry. Well, here's my, we envision Ashland County as a place where quality of life is the highest priority for residents. We can't envision what the residents consider their highest quality. So it's just kind of leads immediately with a kind of jerky comment or anyway. I did change that sentence, I think, to we envision Ashland County as a place where citizens come together to build a high quality of life for one another.
George, go ahead.
I like the way it reads. I don't see anything wrong with this wording that I can understand. I just bringing in the words that all citizens come together in some way is kind of idealistic. This is what we aspire to as the highest quality of life for our residents. I think you leave it simply at that. That's just my opinion.
Lisa, did you have something?
I believe there's a motion on the floor.
This is discussion, and Lisa had something.
Well, first of all, it's really hard to write anything by a group, so I applaud that we're trying to do this. And that's all I want to say at this point.
Charlie, microphone, please.
I see Beth's point there. It's kind of, I think we were trying to say we envision an Ashland County where everyone enjoys a high quality of life. Not that that's their highest priority, but also depends on how I read it. I said I'm an English professor with no degree, but I hadn't realized the clunkiness of that sentence until Beth brought it up. Yeah, I mean, is that really, do we want people to be thinking all day long of how high a quality of life they have, or do we want them to have a high quality of life? What is the vision there? That high quality of life or thinking about having it? That's how I'm reading that sentence now. But I also think paralysis by analysis is a horrible thing, and the cost benefit might be waning on this vision statement. But then I think, well, this is what we got to put out there. Don't we want the best one? But anyway, that's my thoughts for.
All right, any other? Then all those in favor of the August 1st with ending in all as modified, aye. All those opposed?
Nay.
Right.
I think I got 5-2. Dan, are you a voting member? Did you vote? You on the yes? Okay. So I think we carried that as pass. So we will move on with that as the vision statement. I sound like a broken record, but I do want to encourage us to think about these statements as we move forward. We are under a tight crunch, but I think there is some validity to bring this back. So Beth, after we pass this, please bring this back to the committee for further discussion. I think this is the type of thing that we can keep wordsmithing and get to a better place where we all fully agree moving forward. So So the next two agenda topics are kind of related. It's the order and then actually deciding where they go, assign the actions to each objective. So we'll start with the order. So in the packet, there was an example from Bayfield County that basically puts down, instead of the way we have it, where it lists all the objectives and then all of the action items, each objective has its action items underneath it. And I think Megan brought that to her attention last time. We kind of all seem like that, but wondered if we truly want to go that way. One thing I did notice is there are some action items that fall under multiple objectives. And so do we want to list them under all, or do we want to maintain that? And that's where that kind of comes as an issue, is because do we duplicate action items or just put a little note that this also goes under objective? You know, it's listed under objective A, but it also goes under objective D in this. So that's the kind of idea. So we'll have discussion and then we throw a motion on if we need to. Go ahead, George.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of like the way we've done it with all the objectives and all the action items, so we don't repeat action items. But it strikes me we could modify that just slightly so that with each action item, there would be like an asterisk or a reference number referring it back to one or two or three action objectives above. So like this action item reads as so, and then in parentheses referring to objectives 1, 4, and 5. You could do it that way. It's kind of a combination.
So that would leave them all the objectives at top, all the action items below, but then it would reference back up to the objectives as a kind of a compromise. And with duplicate action items, that may be a good path forward. Lisa, did you have something? Oh, okay. Are we all in favor of doing it that way then, with no other discussion? Charlie?
Might I ask our audience member Megan a question?
You bet.
What was your suggestion?
My suggestion had been to have some way of making it possible for a reader to distinguish the relationship between the objectives and the action items. So if there's an objective they particularly like, they can look and see what things the county is doing to support it or plans to do to support it. And also if there's an action item that they're like, why on earth would the county be doing that? They can see what the objective is related to it. And so I think George's suggestion works great for doing that.
Good enough. Thank you very much.
George, go ahead.
I was just thinking maybe there's a further a better modification where you would have the objectives above, the action items below, but instead of having the references on the action items, with each objective, you would in parentheses list the number of the action items
Even
that go
better.
with that objective. I think that would be clearer.
I think that is clear, because when you read the objective, then you can go straight to the action item instead of going back and vice versa. So the proposal on the table right now is have all the objectives listed and in the parentheses the numbered of action item, so that you can go and see what we're going to do for that objective down below.
I support.
Are we good with that? I think that's the simplest. When I was starting to go through and look at where these objectives and action items lined up, is there's times where it's all objectives and action item hits on all of them. So to duplicate it becomes ridiculous. And so then it becomes, and so I think George's solution is the way to go. I think that's just consensus, that we don't need to have a roll vote on that. I think we're just consensus of move forward, but that's how it's going to be. And does anybody object? Then we will move forward with that idea going through. And so the main thing we need to do then is, because these action items are listed in here, we haven't spent a ton of time talking about them. We've spent a lot of time on the goals, a lot of times on the objectives. Because we're running on crunch, we got to be somewhat fluent, but what we need to do is basically go through each action item and assign it an objective so that we can then put those in parentheses with what they're there so that we know where they go. And while we're doing that, since we haven't talked, we can kind of say, yes, that belongs. No, it doesn't. It can get merged in with other ones. George?
I don't know if we would have time in our calendar, but if we did have time in our calendar, I would think it appropriate to refer each section back to its responsible committee member, and that committee member come in with a proposed assignment of action items to the different objectives in their section. But I'm not sure we have enough time.
George, I felt that way, and Carisha did us a huge favor and gave us a clean copy without all the duplicates. I mean, there was 2 vision statements and 4 different sets of objectives and spots. And I said, we got to clean this up. So we all are working on a clean copy. And so she spent the last couple of weeks doing that, helping out. And we got that to where we have in the packet a clean copy. And so, yes, I would think that's great, but I think we got to use the rest of the time I'm here today. And then if you want to keep going, to just get through that. The good thing is I was the housing and I already have that proposed here. The other thing that I did notice is there's some spots where there's a ton of action items and some spots where there's very few action items. And when the public sees that, they're going to then think that we value something more than something else. I know it's, and maybe it's true. And maybe we have the infrastructure to do more with certain of the 9 elements than others. Like housing, we don't have the housing authority. We rely on external people to do it. We're not doing that as a county. We're relying on externals to do a lot of that stuff. But but we can go through and do housing and transportation, and see how far we get. And then it can revert back. I do think we're probably going to have another meeting before, when's our next one? I don't have that. No, we only scheduled this one because if we got through it all, the next, we have another one in September with Northwest Regional Planning, right? Or we have one with Northwest Regional Planning to kind of finalize everything. Then we go start doing our public outreach stuff. We have September 20th as our open house with it in
We have September 15th at 2 o'clock.
September 15th at 2 o'clock in the town of Morris, right?
I know, it's just planning committee.
Oh, okay.
And then
October 20th.
October 20th at 6. And October 27th, no, October 20th at 6.
October 20th.
And
Open
then-
house down in town of Morris, October 27th in
And then-
this room.
October 27th is county board.
Yeah.
And-
We were just gonna kind of couple it with
Right.
that.
But that's also budget day.
Yeah.
And
So, and September 15th, we have with Northwest Regional Planning already scheduled, right?
Right.
So we have to have, we probably are gonna need to have one more meeting prior to September 15th
May I suggest the 25th?
of August? Is that a Tuesday? 2 weeks from today? Everybody good with that? 2 o'clock? Dan won't be here, but we can do it without him. 25th. Okay, so that will be the goal, is to finish whatever we don't get through today on terms of assigning each of these action items to an objective. So we know, because that might also cross an objective out. One of the things that we did is I kind of looked and said there isn't, and so we moved some objectives into action items because they're more action item than an objective. And that kind of helped us kind of move through it. So.
we don't have an August county board meeting. No. Yeah. Yeah, we announced that at the last meeting.
That
Yeah.
I don't attend because they're too early.
Yeah, I'm in Mexico and Gary's having surgery. So,
So yeah, Gary probably won't be here either then, but we can pump through. Again, I hate that this is kind of a Band-Aid approach. We're doing what we have to do by statute. I hope we keep the momentum going after that and really kind of fine tune it over the next 10 years so that we come 10 years from now, we're like, oh yeah, this is all already updated. We don't even have to have meetings every 2 weeks to do it. So,
I'll be honest, the way things are moving, it's going to need to be updated frequently just
Yep.
to keep up with the world.
so I think we have that. So, there's 5 objectives that we've had in housing. 6 action items. I propose that action item 1 goes under all 5 objectives, which is convene a countywide meeting of stakeholders to gather input and a housing study. Yep.
So we're actually under the objectives list, we're going to put in parentheses every action item that supports that?
Yep.
Okay.
But the way we're gonna do it is kind of go through the action items and put what
Gotcha.
objective they need, and then
Okay.
but basically we'll say objective A, and then it'll be parentheses. Right now I have it as 1.
And you also have it, if you think that action step 1 supports all 5.
All 5,
Objectives.
yep.
So we would write 1 under all the. 5
1 will be
objectives.
under all of them, yeah.
Okay.
So I'll say parentheses action 1,
Gotcha.
and then maybe more, but I don't have more for it. Oh, I do.
Okay. Well, that takes care of that one, all right?
Yep.
Do you want us to read it out loud for the record or just go down?
No, if you want me to read it, I can. Otherwise, what I'll do is just go down, and if nobody has any objections and kind of agrees, this is the proposal. The develop and implement plans to share information regarding resources. I feel that goes under objective E, which is improve access to housing assistance information, including energy assistance, energy efficiency upgrades, rental assistance, etc. Yep. Any questions? We're good with that one? Number 3 is develop a listed database of all county housing related services, resources, stakeholder, funding opportunities, list a bunch of them. And I have that under E as well, because it's information based.
Under who's responsible should be HHS also.
HHS, Health
Yeah.
and Human Services.
Yeah, they do
Okay.
stuff like energy assistance,
Perfect.
like WEEP is under HHS, Energy Assistance Program.
Number 4, no, any questions on 3? We good with that, George? You think you could go with A as well? I'm fine with that. Everybody else all right with that? So number 4 is increase homeowner, landlord, and rental education through fact sheets, courses, workshops, alternative housing types, etc. I have that under E and as well as B. And B is support housing that is resilient to extreme weather and climate adapted design and construction practices. We good with that? 5 is prioritize the foreclosure of blighted properties and partner before, during, and after foreclosure with municipalities to address those concerns. I have that as A. We good? And 6 is continue partnership with other taxing entities on request for TIF districts and benefit new housing developments. And I have that under C. As well as D. C and D. Does that work? We good with that? So then what will happen is in the housing on each of those objectives, those numbered objectives, the one thing we have right now is currently all the objectives or action items rather are numbered 1 through whatever. Should they just be numbered for each section? So we have 1 through 6. Should we? That's too complicated, George. That's what
I think it's I think it's more clear if every action item in the whole plan has its individual number.
okay.
That's otherwise you're looking at transportation, then you're looking at utilities, and you're looking at housing, and where does this one go?
The only reason I even bring it up is because I noticed as we kind of merge some action items and stuff, the numbers change, and therefore my letter and number combinations no longer match. So that made it difficult, and that's the only reason I bring it up, but I'm good with that. Is we'll have that, is to maintain that individual. And there is possibility, again, in future meetings where we can even take a transportation goal and put it under a housing objective because it actually meets that too, right? There's sometimes that could happen. And that gets to Megan's sustainability complex of where we can kind of match that, so. All right. So transportation, in there's 6 objectives, and there are a whole bunch of action items. I did go through and I have some suggestions. And so I got about 5 minutes. I can run through those real quick before I got to take off, or I can leave them here if you can read my chicken scratch, Terry. Okay. So 7 is plan and budget for the repair and maintenance of existing roads. I have that for basically all of them. All 6 objectives. I'll run through and then you guys can go back and with mine. How about that? And if you guys want to keep talking about it. So number 8, I have that under objective E, and I hope these match up. E. Edward. Sorry. Multi-jurisdictional, and that was collaborate grant opportunities. 9 is anticipate impacts of increased frequency of severe weather. I have that for C, which is plan potential impacts of climate change. 10, I have study of feasibility of designated scenic highway. I have that under A, natural beauty part. 11, review guidelines to manage trees within the right of way. I have that also under A, there. 12, motorized, non-motorized, I have that as F, which is about recreational motorized, non-motorized. 13, develop an agricultural transport transportation plan that facilitates access to fields. I have that under B, which is protection and integrity of roadways. 14, evaluate culverts. I have that under C, which is plan potential impacts of climate change. 15 is also related to culverts. So under C, flooding, flood happens. 16, prioritize crack sealing and pre-treating roads. I have that under B as maintain integrity of roads. B. 16. 17, partner and help implement wetland restoration projects. 17, I have that C of climate change. 18 is partner and help implement multi-purpose detention basins to reduce peak flow events, so flood control. So I have that under C as well as A, because sometimes areas on our reduced flooding can be the aesthetic value of the roadways as well. 20 or 19. Nope.
Yeah.
19. Wait, then what? Oh, I messed up here. Because 19, I have C and A. What do I have for 18? 18. I have 18, I didn't have anything. I have put a question mark. Do we actually need that one? Road people. Downstream flood.
Well, it's something that we should look at. you know,
Okay.
But that would go along with when we replace culverts.
All right, C and A works then.
I think if Matt, has Matt looked at this at all? Do we know?
I don't know if we,
Okay. 'Cause
one thing, that's another thing we're gonna have to do is really get the department heads and in on these, because we're assigning them stuff to do that we haven't necessarily okayed with them.
I think they made a plan for the farm vehicles to be on the roads.
Right.
I think Amber Shields actually did that.
Yeah.
But that's an old memory, or maybe not.
All right, 19 is the native plants. It's very similar to slow the runoff, blowing snow, and that one I have C and A. 18, I put C and A just because I have had, in my notes, I have a question mark, but Dan said it needs, and I see any sort of wetland area as a,
Well, yeah, if we're
C and A.
replacing the culverts, we should look at, native plantings to help. It makes sense.
I know you're trying to leave, but 18 is detention basins.
yep,
We're keeping that
yep.
and it's C and A.
That's what I am proposing, yeah.
Okay. And can you take off UW extension? We don't really work with water
Yep.
quality.
Okay, 20, implement resilient asphalt and concrete measures. I have that under B and C.
Can I suggest that it's similar to 16?
Yes, we can.
And then can we add the airport? They just spent $4 million redoing the runway, partly because of that freeze thaw.
So combined 20
And 16.
and 20 and 16. And add the airport. Because that's, yeah, mixture. Okay. 21. Flood resiliency, I have C, which is climate change. 22 is develop a fund for floodplain acquisition program to acquire properties. I have that as C as well. Wildlife crossing conflicts in 23, I have that as C as well. C, yeah. Yep. 24, develop mapping resources and public communication to assess alternative routes coordinate with Bart during closures. So 24, I have under. That's where I messed up because there is no H anymore. So it's F. F. So I have it under F, which is support development of transportation network. But that one's for, no, that can't be F. Doesn't wait. Well, 'cause that's for recreational, motorized, and non-motorized vehicles. E. '25. I have K. I didn't fix that one either. I'd have to look. D. Works for me.
And can you add the forestry department? They're in charge of recreational planning.
And Forestry Department.
Yeah, it's forestry, not highway.
Not highway.
Well, highway does say
Oh, okay.
forestry and highway.
Go ahead, Beth.
Can you remind me of what we've decided about the sustainability? Are we giving it its own chapter? What have we decided about that? We've,
Based off the information from public comment today, I think that will be on the next agenda item.
Okay.
Next agenda for us to decide if that draft gets put in or how we maybe address that at the
Thanks.
next meeting. 26, that one is F for ATV mapping.
I know it's not a government, but the snowmobile clubs are
Good.
really active in this
Yeah,
as a county partner, maybe.
So is the Tri-County Corridor.
all right. 27. I have that under C. I don't know where that would go. D and E. No, not C. It doesn't really fit there. Maybe it does. I don't know. 28, D. Bart on Madeline. Electric vehicles, 29, D. Yeah. Developing and improving public specialized transportation, diverse, I have that as C, no, D. D. 31, again, remember my numbers are all off. I'm trying to keep track and every once in a while. The bicycle pedestrian transport. We had one about bicycle pedestrian transport in 25, combine 31 with 25. And then 32, yep. Yep. And then 32 is support the BART, which is probably D. Well, that was just for the Madeline Island part. And so we could put that in there, combine that, but I don't know why we have Explore Madeline Island BART, but maybe there's been some push for that, but I'm gonna pass the gavel to Terry because I really gotta get going. Thank you. Have a good meeting. You saw what I did. We can continue doing that a little bit on some of the other ones and we'll pick up where we left off on the 25th. Wherever you guys leave off. Thank you.
For number 28, exploring BART's expansion to Madeline Island, we might want to put the tribes on that because I don't think it's viable financially without the tribes. Bart thinks it is. But if people would need a car if there was a bus on the island. Yeah, 2 bus.
Could we go on with utilities and community facilities? Yes, George.
Right, so I was responsible for utilities, so I could lead us through what I propose as being the designation for utilities that might expedite.
You would, please.
Sorry, but before we go, maybe we're saving this for next time, but we have a lot that don't have, who is doing it. And then the priority ranking, when will we do that? You know, like, from number 29 through 32, we don't have who is developing the electric vehicle integration plan, blah, blah, blah. And we don't have,
I can also talk to Brad about the next agenda and let him know that that was a concern.
okay,
And so maybe we can add it to the next agenda.
perfect, fine with me.
Okay,
Also, then just that priority column,
you got it.
which
All
I
the blank columns. You got it.
George?
Okay, so let me go through my designations quickly, and then anybody wants to comment on it could comment on it. So under utilities and community facilities, objective A refers to keywords are energy independence and renewable sources. Look at 34, and it refers to renewable energy, so that's 34. On B, objective B refers to elderly and disabled and young children. That shows up in 36, so 36 for that objective. For item C is collaboration and recreational infrastructure. That shows up in items 37 with campgrounds and 39 with no, 39. Oh, it's cooperation. See, hold on a second there. This has to do with also cooperation with local governments. So that brings in 39 with the emergency system. Item D is monitor and improve. The keyword is wastewater treatment systems. That shows up in item 35. So 35 on point D is in David. Objective E is in Edward. A keyword is utilities and community facilities. That shows up in item 33 for utilities and 34 for renewable energy and utilities. And then in community facilities, we could probably add 37, I think. So then item F is in Frank. The keyword is emerging.
Back up a bit, would you please, George?
Beg your pardon, back at E and Edward.
Yeah.
I've got 33, 34, and 37. For D, I have 35. Now for C is 37 and 39. B is in Bravo is 36. A is in Alpha is 34. So this brings us back down to item F is in Frank, which is emerging technologies. That's referenced in action item 33. Objective G, as in George, refers to utilities and resilient and adaptable structure, which also refers to 33 and 34. And then finally, H is in Henry, refers to communications. And again, it takes us back to action item 33. And that would handle that section unless anybody has suggestions otherwise.
Okay. Could you repeat F and G again, please?
For G, which refers to utilities and resilience and adaptability, I have 33, which has to do with high quality communication, and 34, which has to do with energy.
38 doesn't have anything. 38 does not have any objective.
Is that a G?
Yeah, I think that's about it.
Go ahead.
We are gonna deal with that in the next agenda, and just a reminder, we have Liz Franick on the phone. And so we really need to use our microphone so she's able to hear us.
Thank you.
Melissa?
Thanks. I would suggest that under 39, who is the county's emergency management department? They have one developed and it just needs to be promoted. And then I'm wondering, objective C seems really like an overlap with the recreational trail development we heard in the last transportation chapter. Do we care or have a method for referencing similar objectives in different chapters? Different elements? Does that make sense? So C, the objective is all about maintaining and creating recreational infrastructure, including trails and campgrounds. And in utilities, we just had several action items related to trails and both motorized and non-motorized. I'm
So
just-
you would suggest taking it out,
I don't know if I want it taken out, but somehow
the
say
agenda for next time.
it's going to be a busy meeting.
George?
I'm a little bit confused. The heading of this section is utilities and community facilities.
Yeah,
Trail-
correct. Correct. So it's not abnormal that there would be some objectives or action items that were similar across different elements. And I'm just wondering how we want to reference that so that we have an objective and an action in this element that is similar or slightly competing with ones in the transportation. If we want to note that somehow, that maybe it's using the exact same language in both.
Beth?
I think it's really a great time to be noticing when we have similar objectives across departments. So using this as a tool, I would like to see, if we don't use the same language, at least on those bullet points, say, refer to and refer it to the other plans so that those two departments maybe can get together. They might not know that they're both working on a similar objective.
Exactly. Thanks. That's what I'm getting at. So thanks for pointing that out.
George?
Yeah, I see a problem with that. Because in each section, we assign specific responsibility. And if you cross-reference these things, I think it can become confusing. So I would just think of them as being complementary. And if they're two different parties working on the same thing and it's complementary, I think that's just great. But I don't want one party saying, oh, the other party's doing it, so I don't have to. That's a concern. Not fatal concern,
Well,
but it's a
we
concern.
can assign the task to the same party from both vantages. Move on with the natural.
Oh,
George, Charlie?
As the action items are uniquely numbered, you could reference one to the other, right? One unique action item to the other unique action item. Maybe not.
George?
Point of order from my friend, Mr. Ortman. In listening to the tapes online, you need to speak more closely to the mic. Thanks.
Melissa?
I heard them.
my bracelet just knocked it off. I like the idea to re-examine this idea of similar action items and objectives. We have a whole element called intergovernment collaboration. So it would be great if we built into here a mechanism to point out that there might be different departments working on a similar objective as a heads up. They can certainly complement each other, but at least there should be, this is a great place to reference that other departments are working on it so that they collaborate together. So maybe that could get added as an action item, is looking for those overlaps in objectives and actions and finding a way to reference them across different chapters. One quick thing, we were talking, and I'm not sure what the final language was, about using the word climate or climate change, because we were concerned and heard from a grant writer that sometimes that's a flag for future grants, that, you know, we don't want to fund some things. So we were using words that are directly related, like extreme weather or adverse weather conditions. But we do reference climate and climate change in the last two elements. So maybe that's something we could add to the agenda to talk about next time, of what kind of language we're using to reflect that. And then my last thing on this, utilities, I think is really important in light of what happened in the news in the last month of the cybersecurity attack on water supply infrastructure and utilities and wastewater treatment facilities. It might be fit in really well with G when we say ensure that utilities are resilient and adaptable in anticipation of adverse weather and cybersecurity attacks. Or it could go in F when we are talking about, we want the county to stay on top of emerging technologies, and it could say emerging technologies and threats.
Yeah, I'd just like to point out again, counties don't deal with wastewater utilities or water utilities. Those are strictly municipal issues. The way we would deal with it, and the only way we deal is through the sheriff's department. So I think we should, if we're going to address that, let's address it through the law enforcement aspect, because that's the only way we can actually affect it.
I totally agree. And it has always been in my mind that the housing, the county doesn't really do housing except maybe pass a CBDG grant. So there's a lot of content in here that the county doesn't actually have legislative or ordinance rules over, but they reference it as something important that they're working on with other governments who do have oversight.
Beth?
Thank you, Chairman. Looking at letter G and thinking of the news about hyperscale data centers, I'm wondering if this, for objective D, we want, or G, like giraffe, ensure that utility services within the county will be sufficient to meet projected demand. I feel like for residential use or something like that, that's leaving us a little bit vulnerable to perhaps suggesting that whatever demand comes in, even extreme demand, is something that we're willing to accommodate. Just concerned about that.
All right, so if this big packet here is, unfortunately, you have to get the whole set of ordinances. It has what St. Croix County just did for a moratorium. The important thing to remember with these data centers is you have to look at size, because there are a lot of other businesses that we want that have data centers, like Essentia and Tamarack. They both have data centers. They're small scale. Breadings has one. You know, we don't want to chase away businesses that we want, like again, the hospital and Essentia. So I think that wording needs to be a little bit more thought out. So we're talking about large scale and not small scale, like the average employer would have. You know, the school has a data center. So
I just want to point out that I said hyperscale.
yeah.
Go ahead, George.
Well, I think in a general way, we've kind of covered this in objective F. Stay informed and engaged in learning about emerging technologies, facilities, or services that may have complex impacts and benefits on county assets, such as data centers, contaminated soil through PFAS disposal in sludge water, water extractions for commercial use, expanded utility rights of way. In that objective, we are engaged in that question. And in items 33 and 34, we re-engage with those questions as action items. But they're kind of broad scale things that are to be tracked, but we don't have specific indications whether a specific data center or specific solar farm or a specific facility in each individual case would be the right way to go. So I really appreciate the ideas, but I don't think we're in trouble with what it says anyway so far.
This is Liz Franick. I have a comment.
Liz, go ahead.
You can go ahead. You go first.
No, I was just going to get back on task here of the natural resources. You got a comment, go ahead.
But feel like we are doing the task that we're trying to do, is like make sure that these chapters are true and reflective of what we're hoping. So I appreciate that you're given time to add some things that are coming up in this. It sounds like we only have one more meeting and we'll be focused mainly on the action. So I really am happy that you're given a little bit of time to add some of these things that are kind of fast moving or developing on each of these sections. So thanks for that.
Go ahead, Liz.
The comments I have are, constituents have been worried about, where does, like the moratorium about the data centers and all that's been addressed. But, where does the pipeline fit into our plan? We have people that are worried about environmental impact. So far people have been peacefully protesting, and it's affected one business already that may have been, not a peaceful thing if it continued. People are talking about noise and affecting that with the environment, where you guys are going to go see the place tomorrow, and you'll be able to tell like how much noise and how much dust pollution and all that. People have been approaching me about, where does that fit in our plan, and how do we work with the tribe and other individuals that, water protectors, and maintain a peaceful environment and not be affecting the project. And that's what I've been hearing from the constituents. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Does anybody have anything? George?
Yeah. I'm sorry. So in action item 34, it may be a little bit indirect, but we do say we monitor and support adequacy of energy infrastructure within the county. And gas and oil pipelines are clearly part of the energy infrastructure that passes through the county. So it's in there if we want to address them.
Just on natural resources, Beth.
You can hope, but to address what Liz was saying, and again to mention, so now in 34, George, it says to meet user demand, and the other one says to meet projected demand. All that F says, but we're not saying which users. If it's an international conglomerate, I feel that we as a county don't have as much obligation to plan for their needs. Should it be a pipeline that's running fuel that we don't use, or should it be a hyperscale data center, not for the data that we need for our local hospital? So I just think we are leaving some vulnerabilities, even with the language in F, which says we'll be engaged in learning about it, but it doesn't say we have any control. We're not favorable to it. And then both those other things, I still find that vulnerable.
Yeah, I think that's a really good comment, except we don't always know what our constituents feel about some of these projects. So, you know, the pipeline's being laid right now through James Willis and White River. And most of those folks who, you know, gave easements on their property, they're in favor of it. So like, I'm just saying, I don't think we always know up front how our community is going to feel about a specific project.
I agree with George. What people in Ashland think is not necessarily what people in Mellon think. There's two different viewpoints on that. And I think we have to they're both valid viewpoints. So I think we have to toe somewhere, we have to recognize that there's opposing views on hot button issues. You know.
Okay, natural resources, please. Number 40. Well, my initial reaction is A for all of them. A for all of them.
So we're mapping the number of the action item to an objective, right? So are you saying that number 40 through 64 all go
Well,
under
it pretty
A?
much covers everything.
So behind A, I would just put parentheses 40-64. Yeah. Okay.
B, increase collaboration with local and regional organizations with Bad River Tribal Council and other tribal entities that oversee natural resources in our area. Well, 42 for B anyway. Any comment?
Charlie. That, action step 40, I'm thinking that would be land and water conservation for and extension. Would you agree, Lisa?
I didn't hear your question.
So for the responsible party for action item 40, it seems research and education, so utility extension, but for emergent natural resources, land and water conservation department as well, right? And maybe even forestry too?
We're gonna do the responsibility on the next agenda.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yes.
C, increase outdoor recreational capacity by identifying opportunity gaps and creating a responsible plan that meets the needs of county residents and visitors. George?
Well, so far, I think, 40, the outreach goes there. And I think the funding for the forestry department goes there. That's number 43. And it strikes me that the management of forest lands, county forest lands, 45 fits there. And that's as far as I've gotten so far.
Okay,
I'd add 42.
So where did you have George, 40, 43?
I added 43 and 45. And I haven't read any further.
For C? Okay,
I thought Beth wanted to add 42.
42? Yeah. Oh, you added, okay. Any others?
Wow. 51 would relate to recreational capacity. Because it's working with state organizations and outdoor recreation.
53.
51, 52, 53.
Or-
60.
Or 53, can I just point out Bayfield County owns that property now?
Say again, Dan?
For 53, Bayfield County owns that property now. And their intention is to give it to the state of Wisconsin.
Which item are we referring to?
53? So
53.
we should remove it in general, yeah.
Bayfield County owns it and they're gonna transfer it to the DNR.
I disagree. I think there's a lot of room for debate about what happens in the future of that property. I'm really grateful that Bayfield County has it. I'd like to hear the whole story about how that happened at some time.
B, educate the public to protect natural, any other, Beth?
Our goal 50 is almost identical to our objective C. So we're getting a little tangled up in our own feet here.
So then I agree with that, but then also 61, it correlates as well.
And that's embedded in our forestry plan already.
But that's all forestry and recreation department.
Can I ask, this,
ahead.
this is a really, really meaty chapter. And I know we did some compilation from all the comments that were made, but I'm seeing a bunch of comments that I made in this section that aren't in here. And then things that I recommend to be taken out are still in there. So I just wonder if maybe, since this is a huge part of Ashland County, the natural resources and the agriculture, that we do maybe a more intentional dive next time on what some of these things really mean and what they are. I mean, for example, 60 and 61 to me seem really close together. And this whole recreation areas and parks and trails was already addressed in facilities. It just seems like it's very complex, and maybe we could move to something a little easier that we'd start the day out with when we're fresh and haven't had a chance to look at the new revised version.
Beth?
And also, we did get that input from the head of, from Mary Jo Gingras about this chapter and the next one, which I think is equally meaty. So would it be possible that we do this offline and come back with would people be comfortable with that?
I think that's what Lisa was suggesting.
Well, she was saying that we'd start it fresh next time, and I feel like not this body. Could we get it into better shape before this body even looks at it?
Either
Do
way,
cultural resources, that one's short. Yes. Just cultural, page 20 on the, George?
I move to adjourn. No, seriously, I move to adjourn so these things can be worked out. We could all take a look at it in more detail and come back on August 25th. And I've got a motion to adjourn is order. Of course, it requires a second.
I will second that motion.
Oh, before we do, I just want to point out one thing that was in your packet for everybody to look at. This is of importance to the county and as a whole and our communities. It's the increase in equalized value, which is how all of our municipalities' tax bases. So this is so everybody takes this back to their towns. It's in, their boards are going to want to see this. Sorry.
Motion's made and seconded to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.